Okay, well, good morning, and
Good
thank you
morning.
for giving me this time this morning. So, can you tell me your name and what do you do?
Sure. My name is Dave Bach, Dr. Dave Bach. I'm a pediatric epileptologist. That just means a physician that treats children with seizures and/or epilepsy.
So, describe what you do in a, just so if I was eight,
Yeah.
what you would do.
Yeah. Yeah. So the brain is a miraculous thing. And what happens in the brain is it has lots of circuits. So, for instance, I'm talking to you. You hear me, and then you speak. That's a circuit in itself. It goes in one area and comes out another. The issue sometimes is if there's anything that causes a little bit of dysfunction in the brain or anything that's off in the brain, it can disrupt one of those circuits or electrical circuits. And if it disrupts it, depending where it disrupts it, it can cause malfunction of what you do. So all the normal activities that you do can be exaggerated. For instance, if it disrupts the area that affects movement, it can cause jerking. Or if it disrupts the area that causes smell, you can have an atypical smell each time. If you do that more than once, it's a seizure. And what I do, I try and figure out what's going on, where the seizure is coming from, what's causing the seizure, and stopping it. Because if those circuits are disrupted, it not only affects seizures, it affects many other things. And that's what we try to control.
That was an amazing description. Oh my gosh. I have
Thank you.
never, oh my God, that is amazing. Thank you for that. I mean, just that was great. Most doctors, it's hard for them to come down.
Yeah, well, I have no choice, right? Because my, kids are very truthful about just about everything, and they'll ask you the questions, and they'll tell you when they don't understand.
That is amazing. Awesome. Wow. So tell me what you like about your job, or what do you like most about your job?
You know what I like most about my job? I like when I have a child that comes in that's having a problem. And in children, when you solve that problem, you can tell. So if a child is ill or if a child is seizing, they're very, very truthful. And they'll tell you that they're not feeling well, or you can actually sense it. But once they get better and they start playing with all your instruments, jumping around and engaging, once you build that trust and they're better, oh, it's the best. The other thing is if you follow them over time and you see that progress, like I have patients now that came in seizing, unable to move around, unable to engage, and now they're getting married, or they're off to college, or they're playing sports. That's I love that stuff.
So tell me where you're born and raised.
I was born in Antigua, small island in the Eastern Caribbean. And I was raised in Antigua. And then I moved from there to Albany, New York, where my sister was at the time. And where fortunately I met my wife. Then thought I'd go back to the Caribbean because I've always been engaged in the Caribbean. So though I got into medical school up here, I went back to University of the West Indies. Historically, that's a university that grew out of the University of London for people within the British West Indies. And then we decided to come back this way. So I was in New Jersey, then I went to University of Michigan, and then I did epilepsy and sleep at University of Toronto. And then I think I was complaining a bit too much, so my wife said, let's forget about this cold stuff. So then we moved back home. And I've been in this region, Houston, then Memphis, and then Austin, fortunately, which is now home. But I do go back. I do quite a bit of national and international work. So I am licensed in St. Lucia, Antigua, Tobago. I am in the International League Against Epilepsy, and we just try and optimize here in the region. Because the Caribbean isn't only beaches and tourism. They have lots of people in need that live there. So.
That was a good one. Oh my gosh, that was great. So what was it like being raised in um
In Antigua.
Antigua?
I mean, it was fun. I'm a little biased, but you know, much more family, very, very safe, very engaging, lots of partying, even from being young, very open, and lots of beaches. So I used to walk to the beach frequently, but it's interesting when you have it, you don't know what you have, right? So the engagement and stuff that goes on in Austin, people don't know what they're missing until they leave. Yeah. So for years before going to Albany, although Antigua is very small, I really didn't go to the beach that much because it was much cooler to hang out at the burger place or the skating rink. But then when you leave, you miss it so much. So yeah, I think growing up there was pretty amazing, and it sort of formed my path in the right way. I'd say sociopolitically and medically, it really, during that period, being conscious about what's going on, being conscious about need, as my parents told me, but also, having asthma myself and seeing people with sickle cell and that kind of stuff, it really formulated my path into getting into medicine.
That was my next question was how did you get into medicine?
Yeah. So right after high school, I actually started off teaching because I knew I wanted to do something with kids. And then I thought it's a sort of roundabout path. I went to do undergrad, and then I realized in undergrad that taking care of kids and taking care of persons with illnesses, as colleagues of mine had, would be the path I wanted to go through. And initially, I wanted to do hematology oncology because of sickle cell, but then realized I really like the brain, its circuits, and improving conditions of the brain. So that's how I got into neurology. And then I saw those squiggly lines, squiggly EEG lines, and saw that I could actually interpret brain waves. And I could tell when people were sleeping, when people were awake, when it's dysfunctional. I could tell when you're blinking your eyes or when you're moving your tongue from side to side. And I must say, so I graduated in neurophysiology in 2003. And I don't think I've ever seen an EEG that's not interesting. Still, it's just fascinating.
Why? How so?
Especially in children, brain waves change with age, and the brain matures with age. That's why it's important that a specialist, a pediatric specialist, look at your EEG, because they have all these little benign variants that you have to pick up on. But just as interesting is, if you're going to sleep, for instance, I can tell the rhythms that are slightly different, or if you're drowsy. If you're wide awake and moving around, you could actually in a 3D see a thought process because everything is decent. Or for instance, if you are just meditating, you can actually evaluate those waveforms. So the EEG was discovered in 1929, and still it's fascinating. And they have other components of neurophysiology that I really like, but that foundation goes back being able to look at a three-dimensional model of waves, two-dimensional model of waves, and in your mind, figure it out in a three-dimensional way. I just find it's like being a detective and trying to decipher and figure out what's going on. Once you get to that key, trying to fix that key, and then seeing everything smooth out again. I think it's pretty wild.
That's amazing. So what advice would you give someone who's thinking about going into medicine or into your field?
It is a long track. I'm biased, but I do think that it's not as complicated and difficult, just give it a chance. Give it a chance. I mean, persons of color will likely hear a fair amount of no's, or why don't you do this, or why don't you do that, but they're significant. In neurology itself, I think they're only about 3% persons of color, well, African Americans, and going into medicine is pretty small. So I would encourage people to see what it's like. Going to the field is extremely rewarding. And if you have concerns about it, just touch base with me. You can come hang out.
That's awesome. How do you give back?
So I try and do that locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Because I've realized for a long time that it's not necessarily about me, right? A mentor of mine told me that. He said, ultimately, you can write fascinating papers. Few people will read it, and even fewer will care about it. So you have to do something that in your mind changes the lives of people that you care about. And he was correct. So locally, just as stated before, I've found that the matriculation or people getting into and going through medicine don't often look like me. I'm trying to change that from the research point of view, looking at rural areas. I'm trying to better collaborate with Hughes and Tillotson, the HBCU in town. And just that exposure of allowing people to come through the system. Real local organizations like the Epilepsy Foundation, I engage with them quite a bit to help, Black, Hispanics, and just about everyone. And within epilepsy itself, the people that are underserved, the under and uninsured, those that live in rural areas, persons of color primarily, socioeconomic status. So you have to engage all of them. On a more national and regional scale, I was elected to the National Association of Epilepsy Centers. I'm on the Epilepsy Leadership Council nationally, and I try through these organizations to advocate for equity. And then internationally, I told you I'm going to the Caribbean, but on our national organizations like China Neurology Society, I'm part of the Global Committee, and I've gone to lecture in, say, Ghana. I've gone to Cuba to engage, I've gone to Martinique. So I just try and help as much as possible. And it's also good to see those places. They're very eye-opening, and you tend to see the linkages that you, being from Antigua, I realized that I'm a part of a more global community. Going to Ghana, I can see the likes and innuendos that we do together. Here in the US, I can see the type of food, say, coming out of Georgia. I'm fascinated by the Gullah and Gigi people. I'd love to go into that community just to see what it's like, because there's so many likes and the languages are so similar. So, yeah.
Well, I'm sure being from another country, it's different when you come to the US, and everybody, if you have brown skin, you're considered Black or African American, right? They don't seem to differentiate. And so in so much as that is kind of the national case, describe what it's your experience of being Black in medicine and even in your field.
I mean, if you don't open your mouth, people don't know the difference, right? So I personally think we're all the same. I don't make that significant differentiation. Even if I have on a decent suit going into an elevator, somebody will still touch their nose. It's just is what it is. I try and change it. I've been into operating rooms, fortunately not here, but I've been into operating rooms where someone looked to my junior resident and asked, what are your names? And I am the person who did the person. I have walked out of those rooms and they have to call me back. I've had families say that, can we get a more senior person? And I actually walk out the room, send in my junior faculty, and then they have to come out and speak to me. And then I go back in and I tell them, well, do you want to see? And as a matter of fact, that person, not here again in Austin, but that family, we sort of grew fast, friends through them apologizing profusely and so forth. But independent of that, it was a teaching moment, right? But yeah, no, I think we go through similar acts. And I do have two children that were born in the US that pretty much go back to the Caribbean at least once a year, that have been either Antigua or Jamaica, where my wife is from, but they have those linkages. Yeah. So, you know, yes, there are differences, but those differences should be celebrated. But I don't think those differences should negate us speaking with that voice. I think that's the way I tend to think. And I've always thought about it that way.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes one of the only ways we can survive in some of these is, we just have to continue to do our job and not worry about what other people think.
Exactly.
So I did pull some questions from Tim Ferriss. He has some questions that I actually liked. One of them
Sure.
was, if you had a gigantic billboard anywhere on the globe, and you could get a message out to millions and billions of people, what would that message be?
That's an amazing question. I would actually target kids and get it out to kids. And I would tell the kids that you're special and you can do anything you want to. I think that would be my message.
Why?
Because I think too often, and not in this community, many communities, children become despondent, but they don't start out that way. They start out full of hope. They think they can take over the world. And somewhere along the path, somebody tells them that they're less than. And it changes. And it's unfair. And if we could get them over the hump, how much could they possibly accomplish? That's why.
This is why I love doing the interviews myself, because it's just amazing listening to you guys. It's just amazing the way you think. These are all kind of Tim Ferriss questions I thought were really cool. This one is kind of funny, but and it's been funny to listen to the answers. What is a unusual habit or absurd thing that you love?
Unusual habit or absurd thing that I don't think is absurd. I love jerk pork. That's not absurd at all. I make a mean rum punch, and I like to compete against people that make rum punches. Yeah, I don't think, I mean, if you ask, so that's my wife, she may actually find others that are even more absurd.
That's very true, I'm sure. What is, what purchase of $100 or less that has most positively impacted your life over the last 6 months or recent memory?
Over the last 6 months?
Or yeah, recent, memory.
A mask. I think, well, in the first, I must tell you, this is funny, but it's true, and people that know will tell me. It's not that I don't like good things, but I'm pretty cheap. But I would suggest that the most impactful thing you can do with $5, especially going into an indoor facility, and I've seen it in real time, is wear a mask.
Why is that?
And I don't know if it's going to persist. But I have seen a reduction in infectious conditions, including COVID, once you put on that mask. Not saying that I don't want to get back to normal, not saying that I don't want to get back to carnival, which, I'm yearning for. I've missed it for quite a while. Not saying I don't want to get back to one of my favorite parties, which is called Breakfast Fest, from 4 in the morning to 7 p.m. Not sure if not saying that I don't want to do international work again, because I love doing that. Even if I get off at 8, 9 o'clock at night seeing patients, that joy of relaxing and not caring about insurance and who can't get this type of medicine, it's amazing. But I do think, especially for COVID, we can see a specific difference with putting on that mask and vaccination. And I see it not only in the US, it's worldwide. And so I think just impact alone, that's why I would suggest it.
When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do to get back to center?
I don't do it well. But I think because, you try not to come home and burden folks at home. But I think coming home, relaxing and gardening, which I do quite a bit. My wife convinced me that, but watering plants, putting down rocks in the garden, planting vegetables, looking at the roses, that's very relaxing for me. And water. So initially, the ocean, but even in Albany, people knew where to find me. I'd be by a farm. Here, my backyard, since we've moved and downsized, is not very large, but I had to have a fountain because I have that connection with
water. What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made?
That's another very, very good question. So I'd say going to a place, and you can tell me that you want something else, but I would say doing neurophysiology in Toronto, because I had many choices, was an investment to me because the dollar was less and I was moving with my family. But I would suggest that's one of the best investments I've made, not only because of what I did, but I met mentorship there, I met colleagues there, and it just was part of the things that led my path.
I may have didn't hear exactly what you said. You said something in Toronto.
Yeah, moving to Toronto for my neurophysiology training. And then the other investment that was great, and you'd probably find this funny, was listening to my parents and going to Albany for undergrad. Because if I didn't do that, I would not have met my wife, I would not have met my best friend. So that's if this comes out, she has to know that that was an investment. Because if I say anything else, I don't want to be in trouble.
Smart man.
After 28 years, hey.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Congratulations. How has failure or apparent failure set you up for later success?
Yeah, no, I think you don't appreciate success unless you have had those failures. It creates humility. And I think humility makes a better person, a better physician. In my mind, every time I've had a failure, whether it be in treating a specific individual or personal life, I think it sets you up to actually try harder, succeed, but in a humble way. The fascinating thing to me is, and that's why you have to be nice to everyone. Failures may not come big, but you could learn from everybody across the board. And simply by not saying good morning to a person, say someone that works in a cafeteria, for instance, or elsewhere, if you go to that cafeteria and they give somebody else, say, that last egg, or they don't engage you in an appropriate way, in my mind, that's a sense of my failure because I didn't appreciate that person. And that teaches me not to do that in the future. It's subtle, but it's real.
In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Sure. I really like that question because I've been thinking about that. So coming out of fellowship and in academia, you tend to think of the bells and whistles. So you like the new fancy investigative studies, the new fancy tools. And what I realized was, which I knew, but I didn't really, that only a small percentage of people that actually should see you get to see you. So that have totally changed my mindset, not only in the last 5 years, because I did it and I engaged, but now I want to know why. And I want to know how. And I want to know what interventions may help. So much so that I've been in this game for a long time. But I went back and did a certificate in public health, actually just finished it, and may go on just for that reason. I need to know why somebody coming from Waco, that's an African American that comes here, or that goes to Houston, or that goes to San Antonio, may be treated differently than somebody that's Caucasian within the same setting. And how can we intervene? Or why somebody that's Caucasian coming from Laredo will not have the same access as somebody from Austin? And how can we, as a core community, intervene? So that whole, sometimes it sounds like philosophizing, but that mindset change, which again, I had sort of before because I wanted to do international work, but it has become more of a reality in my mind that I don't always need those bells and whistles. I need to look at the whole group. I need to look at not 20%, but the 100%.
Over the last few years, what have you become better at saying no to?
Not much. I should say long hours, but then people will tell you that's not true. I should say being on that next committee, but people will tell you that's not necessarily true. I will say that I have become better at triaging what's important to me. So if I have to stay and do like 5 other clinics, but there's educational initiative in, say, Ethiopia that I'm working on, maybe I'd want to work on that to better manage. But I'd be lying if I said that I knew how to say no well. I'm still learning.
What life lessons have you learned?
Whew, where do you want me to start? So I think as you get older, you realize some of the things that your parents tell you, or my father would tell me, about how much it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And you learn what that means over time. You'll realize that you have to value friends. You realize that there's no hierarchy in outlook of life. There's no hierarchy in engaging others. You should try more to treat people equally. sometimes I may go overboard with that because I sometimes just don't like the fluff. As I told you earlier, I see this lab coat when I have to take pictures and so forth because I find that kids don't react as well to the lab coat, so I don't necessarily need it. But because I don't go in with it, unless somebody looks at my badge sometimes, they don't know I'm a physician and you're treated differently. But that I don't find that the bad because you see, if people don't know you're a physician, you see the real person. And when they realize it, they start and they try and change, but it's too late, they've exposed themselves. You have some tough questions, man.
They're all about you.
You're like making me do all this philosophizing.
I know,
people
right?
See this thing and be like, what in the world?
Well, it's, I always, whenever I do this, I get like, secretaries and PR people, calling me, hounding me about questions. And I never send the questions because I'm like, the questions are about the person.
Yeah.
And it's easy for you to write the question, already look at, okay, I know what I'm going to say. I know what the right thing is to say. And it's like, that's not what
the real thing.
Exactly. It really
I'm
shows.
so sorry. Let me see what's going on here.
No, sure, no worries.
Okay, I'll answer that. No problem.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Did I ask you about one moment or experience in your life that changed your way of thinking? I think I did.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So tell me another really good one. How do you think your kids will remember you?
I hope they remember me as a good dad. And a dad that made them believe that they could do anything. That's my hope. And I think they will. I will say that sometimes when I was younger, when they were younger, I wish I was around a bit more, but they've never made me feel that way. And we're very tight with that.
So how, once you're gone off this earth, what do you want to be remembered for?
Somebody that made a difference. And I don't need to be remembered within the medical community as somebody that made a difference, but I'd like to be remembered in the communities that have served the patient population as someone that facilitated change.
And you may have already answered this question, but what's the best place you've ever lived?
I'm biased, Antigua. Well, it's home, right? But there's just something to be said of the freeness and the political incorrectness of Antigua.
Speaking of political correctness, describe Austin.
I think Austin is open. I like Austin. Austin is open, environmentally friendly. I do wish that Austin was a bit more mixed, culturally mixed. But I do, I'm pretty much a tree hugger. I do like the fact that I can engage with folks within Austin. It's multicultural to the point of my kids having people from all over the world to engage with and visit with. And I view Austin as a big city that still believes it's a college town. I think that's, yeah, go ahead.
I agree. What are you most proud of?
My kids.
Why?
That's a bottom line. Yeah. And I must say, a close second or pretty close is my kid.
Who's
So neither my parent, my dad didn't go to high school, my mom didn't finish. And my dad did many businesses, and my mom ran a business, a chain of businesses for someone. And they're brilliant. And they put forth kids through college, all professionals. So yeah, my kids. And
who's your favorite person?
you know what I have to say, come on. But that's the truth though. It's so it's my wife.
Okay, there's always two answers. So what I get, it's usually the wife. Well, it's first, almost always it's the mother, and then and then it's the wife. What's your favorite book or book you'd recommend?
Franks Fanon, Black Skin, White Mask, or a quick second is Roots. A third, and you'd think this is weird, there's a book called The Fallen Sickness by Temkin. It's about the history of epilepsy. Don't go to the nerd now.
Oh gosh. What do you enjoy doing in your leisure time?
Gardening, hanging out with friends, and I love to travel.
Okay. What's your favorite place you've ever traveled?
So Bangkok was nice, but for historical reasons and linkages, probably Ghana. Probably Ghana.
This is the last question. What does it mean to be chosen as one of our top 10 lawyers in Central Texas? I mean, it's
I think it's pretty. I think it's always good to be appreciated. But more important, I've looked at the list, and it's quite an honor to be a member of that list. My hope is that this could be leveraged to engaging more undergrads and so forth, to pull them, if not into medicine, into affiliate health-related fields. But yeah, no, I'm very, very appreciative.
I will tell you, when I first started this, the top 10 series, I remember, some white people telling me, I don't think you're going to be able to do this every year, because I don't think anybody could name more than a few Black doctors on one hand. And now, I mean, it's completely open. And
but isn't that good though? That's so good. And that's amazing. Cheers to that, especially in the Austin area. I'm so happy that's happening more.
Yeah. I mean, because you think about obstetricians, and then you think about pediatricians. Well, most people are like, oh, I want a Black pediatrician. And, like, I host a group of about 20,000 Central Texans, and it's called Black Austin. And people are always asking, is there a Black doctor? Is there a Black dentist? And so now it's like amazing. There's so many. I think there's like over almost 100 or so. Which is absolutely amazing. So, I'm just glad to be able to share. And this is why I did this, right? Because it's like,
that's so cool.
You only see like 2 or 3 people in one profession. And so now it's like, it's just amazing. Because like, what's Desmar was on my list last year, and, she, now she's like the director of public health or something. And she was out in Bastrop. She goes from DC to Bastrop. I mean, it was just like, what? It's crazy. Anyway, well, that was, like I said, my last question. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, congratulations. I think this is fantastic. I think it's fantastic. And, if you need a mean rum punch, or you need some really good cooking, you can come over and hang out with me. And so there you go.
Let me tell you, I've got a friend. She's Jamaican, and so every Thanksgiving, well, when we visit with them on the holidays, she makes this. What is it? Sorrel.
Yeah, I make sorrel. I make puncha creme. I make sorrel.
Oh man!
All these liqueurs. Yeah.
pretty good. It's pretty good. So I don't know that I can make it, but yeah, it's pretty good. Well, thanks for the offer because I love to eat. So
I hear you.
we're gonna be out of town for Thanksgiving, but let us know about those leftovers for Christmas.
I hear you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, just for sharing this time, with me. It's really been a pleasure, really getting to know you and hearing, your thoughts on life. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing, listening, to you and just the passion. It's pretty amazing. So.
Yeah, see, if you get into these squiggly lines, man, you just can't go back. It's good stuff.
But you know what? That's why it takes all types of people because
Yes.
it's I'm a creator, so I don't, your brain functions totally different, than mine.
Yeah.
So but thank God for you. Thank God for people like you. Well, thank you. Enjoy your Saturday. I've got probably
Indeed.
got to see a few more doctors today.
All right. Take care.
All right, and hopefully we'll see you at the gala. So I know Dell is supposed to be buying some a table or so. So 'cause I know how
Indeed.
cheap you doctors are. And I tell y'all are the worst. The worst.
I hear you.
All right. Well, hopefully I get to meet that beautiful wife of yours from Jamaica. So we'll see.
Indeed.
Take
All right.
care.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.